Hello and welcome to The Long Couch. My name's Carl. I'm joined tonight by Mel.
As always.
And tonight we will be discussing double standards.
This is an interesting one because I feel like I notice double standards all the time. But it's one of those things when I actually try to think of one. I feel like the same four that everybody thinks of. So maybe you'll present me with one that was maybe unbeknownst to me before tonight.
I think I will.
You're always bringing something new to the table, something that I've just never heard of.
I try. That is my job here. So what is a double standard? A double standard is a set of principles that applies differently and usually more rigorously to one group of people or circumstances than to another. And you can't talk about double standards without talking about gender.
Yeah, there's a lot of double standards. Especially in America, because, that's the country where I live. But I feel like this has probably been the most, publicly recognized double standard for the longest time.
Mm-hmm. It's the biggest identifier that divides us as humans, I think.
In terms of social categorization and I could see that, because
when it
it's
comes
kind
to
of
setting standards to a group of one people as opposed to another group, I feel like gender is just a big and easy way to apply that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but that's the one thing that everybody experiences.
Yeah, there are double
to some
standards
extent
that apply to race or class, but it's hard doing research and trying to find ones that are not related to gender. So we're going to knock out a couple of these gender-related double standards right away.
Absolutely.
So first off, it's body image. Women's
Yes.
body image tends to be scrutinized far more than men's. In recent years, the dad bod physique has been widely accepted and celebrated as an attractive body type for men. Conversely, women do not typically receive the same latitude with their body and physique.
This one is actually thankfully actually kind of been dialed back a little bit in recent years, because if you remember, if you look at ad campaigns, or you look at tabloids, or you look at news and stuff like that from even as recent as the mid 2000s, which was less than 20 years ago, the standard for bodies back then was ridiculous. Those tabloids would have had you believe that Britney Spears was the fattest a person could be.
Uh-huh.
And it's crazy now because those standards thankfully have really out of all of this sort of social double standards that exist, I feel like that one has been dialed back the most. Now people are appreciating curves. It's socially acceptable to appreciate more curvy, or not even just curvy bodies, just any body type.
Mm-hmm.
And so although this one does exist, I do feel like out of a lot of them, this one has most certainly gotten better the most.
So when did Sir Mix-a-Lot drop Baby Got Back?
See, Baby Got Back, I think, changed
That
the
was the
lives
turning
of
point.
a lot of people. It really was. And here's the thing. I think Baby Got Back. Now, I'm going to look it up because I don't want to be wrong. But I feel like Baby Got Back was actually progressive. Because I feel like it came out in the 90s, right? Yeah, 92.
92.
So
Before
we're
I was
talking-
even born.
Yeah. So Sir Mix-a-Lot
He was ahead of his time.
Oh my God, by over a decade. He was on that wave. He was saying, and he said, my anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hun. But what else does he say? He says, because silicone parts were made for toys. Now, obviously, if you would like to do any sort of body augmentation, by all means, I support that. But he was basically saying, I like it natural, and I like them big. I think he says the words juicy too.
At the very
And
least, he was celebrating a different body type than was to be socially expected at that time.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not disillusioned. I understand that this song is all about the objectification and sexualization of women's bodies. However, the beauty standard up at that point, up until 2010, was like as skinny as possible. So
Yeah.
he really was like he paved the way. He was a trendsetter.
It used to be that having a big butt was like, you don't want that. That's very undesirable.
Yeah, it's like trashy almost.
Yeah,
or
and now it's
obscene.
like, men love a fat ass.
Yeah, they do.
They do. So I've heard that men really do
Yeah.
appreciate a fat ass.
And I'm happy that like we've kind of reached this, not almost, but we're reaching this sort of balance where like we're not compensating too heavy in either direction. Like a lot of advertising, specifically women's advertising, because there are body standards for men that are unrealistic. But that just hasn't been perpetuated nearly as long. I mean, you could look at maybe like movie stars that are absolutely fucking jacked, or like tabloids calling like, I mean, you've seen the tabloids that it's like Bruce Willis has gained some weight, and it's like the man's like 65 years old. He was he's an action hero 30 years ago. Cut him some slack. So you see stuff like that, but really, the women double standard and the body sort of expectation has been around longer, but you have advertising now that is much more like inclusive in terms of like body shapes, body styles, and also in terms of like what a lot of people would consider to be just differences, right? Like, because I don't want to say that it's like a bad thing, because it's not a bad thing, but like let's say women and men with like alopecia or like vertigo, like stuff like that is also being represented. So it's more than just the size of your body, but also the physical traits of it that are being like included more and more and more in advertising. And you can get on here and you can be like, oh, they're being woke and forced representation. Shut the fuck up. What the fuck is forced representation? I don't give a shit. That's what people look like.
Yeah.
That's what people look like. And so I don't think that's forced representation. I actually think that's accurate representation.
Let's focus on how this is a double standard.
Well, no, it 100%, and it still is. It's unfortunate,
Right.
but like you brought up the dad bod.
Yeah, this one is claiming that, well, men kind of get a pass because the dad bod is sexy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's hot.
See,
him
and
being a little out of-
I would make the argument that thick women are also sexy. Maybe you don't see that quite so much in the media. Maybe the mainstream beauty media is not pushing that quite so heavily. But there is definitely a growing population of thick women lovers.
Well, here's the thing. This sort of like double standard, it's half right, because dad bods are hot.
Mm-hmm.
But thick women are also hot too.
Right, and I think that men face this kind of body expectation as well, just not as heavily as women.
Yeah, the thing is like the men and like the man like body expectation, like the double standard definitely does exist, but like I said earlier, it's like the expectations for men are just a lot of it is like kind of the same stuff. Like you see these guys like, oh, these guys are fucking jacked, and like the tabloids are like, look at these celebrity guys who've gotten so fucking fat, and it's like they've just like lost the muscle tone from when they were like action movie stars. And so just as women are expected to be skinny, men are expected to be like just fucking ripped.
Right.
Which is also unrealistic, but yeah, like I said, I don't know. I'm glad to see that this one has kind of died down in severity a little bit over the years. There's always going to be those people that continue to attempt to like perpetuate the double standard, but I think socially it's gotten a lot better.
We're making progress here.
I think so. I'm trying to stay optimistic.
Are we making progress with this next one? Assertive women are seen as bossy, while assertiveness for men is often seen as a positive leadership trait.
No, we've made zero progress in this one.
Zero progress. Okay.
No, I really do. I think that men are intimidated by powerful women.
Some men are turned on by powerful women.
No, they're intimidated. Like,
No, you're right.
I mean, yeah, some guys are for sure. Yeah.
Men have fragile egos, and they do not want to be seen as being submissive to a woman in any way, and that's the problem.
I think people tend to sort of stray away from that conversation because they're scared of like being like made into like a soy face meme. You know what I mean? Like, oh, look at this fucking beta male who's like simping for the cause of like bossy women or whatever. And you can call me that all you want, but I think that won't change the fact that like a lot of guys will see a woman who's like not bossy, just like like assertive.
That's not seen as like a good trait to have as a woman. Like if you're gonna play your gender role, you're not supposed to be bossy. That's a man's thing to do. He's supposed to take charge and be assertive, and a woman is meant to be submissive, apparently, more passive.
Submissive.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's just a long-term reinforcement of this gender role, and now women can't have positions of power because it's been so ingrained in people that women are not supposed to be assertive and hard-headed and such.
Yeah, you know what my theory is with this? My theory is that guys who believe that like assertive women are like cunts essentially are guys who have never worked in the service industry.
Why do you say that?
Okay, because I fucking promise you, like go work in like a kitchen, right? Go work in a kitchen, go work at a fucking like retail store or whatever. Go work somewhere where you have a busiest hour of the day and you have a busiest like season and like you have to be on the floor with people. I promise you, I've worked in kitchens and I've worked in retail and like I've worked with some like just absolutely like monstrous women like that dominated that fucking store, right? If you think that you view that as bossy or bitchy because you've never because you don't understand why it's important. But I promise you, I worked in a shoe store during Christmas time. Our general manager was a woman, and she wasn't bossy or bitchy. She was efficient. She was effective, man.
It's almost as if women are just as capable of taking charge as men.
It's almost like we aren't so different.
Yeah.
You know, we always come to this, I feel like we always kind of circle back around to this sort of like general concept. It's like, turns out we aren't so different. We're like a dare pamphlet. We're like being yourself is cool.
Yeah, it turns out that these gender roles that are just fake and have been applied to us are not helpful at all.
Dude, I mean, like we said, was it last episode? No, it's the episode before that, you know, you were like, oh, gender should be abolished. And I was like, I agree, but also we were talking about gender like 2 episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you said we got to get rid of that shit. And I've been thinking about that episode too, like because I kind of played devil's advocate a little bit, and I was trying to think of a way that it's like, oh, gender as like a social construct is actually it brings structure to people's lives. You know, it's a form of expression, which I do still believe. But I went back and I listened to that episode, and I was like, fuck, Carl's kind of onto something. I was like, maybe we should just get rid of this shit.
Hopefully, we'll come around eventually.
Yeah, I was at a Green Day concert in 2017. Actually, for my 16th birthday. I was born in 2001, if that makes anybody feel like shit. There was a person in front of me in line. And, you know, I was 16 years old, and there's a person in front of me in line, and they had like one of those like patched denim jackets, and there's a giant patch that covered the entire back of it that was sewn in. That was just like, that said, I think it said gender is over, like abolish gender. And 16-year-old me was like, how fucking cringy is that shit, dude? Like,
we've all had things like that.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, like that's so cringy. Like, you know, what do you? I wasn't like, I wasn't like anti-blue hair, woke, liberal, feminist, Steven Crowder consumer type guy. But I was like, that's kind of cringy. And then years down the line, I'm like the Danny DeVito gif. I'm like, I get it now. Like, I understand what they're going for.
Yeah, I mean, like 10 years ago when I first heard about like they, them kind of stuff and people stating their gender in conversations, I thought, that's fucking stupid. And I thought, like, legalize weed? No, that's for a bunch of stoners. We should never do that. And obviously, I've come around to these things.
Breaking gender norms and smoking a lot of weed.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a healthy, normal person, then your opinion should change as you grow older and gain new knowledge.
First of all, you're 100% correct. And to follow up on that, I saw a quote a while back, and I can't remember who said. I think it was just some fucking guy on Twitter, honestly. But I saw somebody basically say that if 2 of your beliefs do not conflict or contradict each other a little bit, then you haven't thought very hard about your beliefs. If you approach things with like critical analysis and like nuance and all that shit, then like somewhere along the line you are going to find that you find yourself disagreeing with what you thought you believed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of stuff is important because like I used to kind of like be in a position to where I was like, oh, like the idea of like maybe sort of like this subversion of gender and stuff like that. I was like, I don't really get it. Kind of sounds a little silly to me. And as I've gotten older, it's just like, oh, I can understand these things in not only a more progressive way, but just in a more nuanced way. Like I can actually think about it and analyze and make opinions for myself, not just what the people on YouTube tell me.
Mm-hmm. So, next up. Women are associated with cooking and being in the kitchen, but most professional chefs are men. In the U.S., the workforce of chefs and head cooks in 2021 was only 22.5% female.
You getting your stats from the Burger King tweet? Do you not know that? Did you not see that shit?
Yeah, they said get in the kitchen because...
They said women belong in the kitchen.
Yeah, women belong in the kitchen. Here's our new program to get more women in the kitchen.
Dude, listen, I understood what they were going for, and it was actually a pretty, like, great, I guess, intention. But, man, talk about a PR fumble.
But what
I guess
about
not
the
really
actual
fumble.
point here?
Well, the actual point here, I don't know, because that's interesting because it comes down to, like, so women are expected to be good with cooking and being in the kitchen because they're, I guess to some extent, they're expected to be domestic, right? And like that sense of like domesticity works for some people, but there is the standard that in the home, women are supposed to cook and clean. And so even though you would expect that to translate over to like women should be chefs, it's like no, because that's like an occupation. And so it's like women should cook, but only at home. Leave the actual jobs to the men. And I guess this just comes down to first of all, yeah, I agree that this is a double standard. I guess that's sort of has to that's like an addressing of like an industry standard, you know? Like statistically women are less likely to get like turned down for jobs and shit than men. And some places have put preventative measures in effect to you know, prevent things like that. But I think that just comes down to, honestly, you could say this for any job. Like I understand the double standard is women are expected to be in the kitchen, but honestly, I would say that women probably have a less chance of getting work in a lot of most professions.
Right, because women have separate needs than men, and people expect that they'll act differently when it comes to careers.
Yeah, I mean, can you seriously, and this is like a total fucking like leap from what we're talking about, but do you remember back in like 2016 where people were like, we can't elect Hillary Clinton as president? What if she gets her period? It's like...
That's not the reason we can't elect her as president.
It's like, what do you think a period does? Like, honestly.
Also, did they forget that she was like Secretary of State and all this shit?
Well, yeah, but they were like, what if she has a period and like she goes crazy and makes all these emotionally charged decisions as president?
Because a man has never made an emotionally charged decision.
It's like, what are we fucking talking about? Like... She gets a period and it's like, all right, time to bomb a few countries out of emotion.
Right. Somebody give me some chocolate. I'll press the nuke button, damn it.
Dude, literally, I feel like a lot of the biases could be solved if we just had like a better health class in like America, in the American education system.
Women as chefs. Why are there not more of them?
I don't know. I mean, I guess probably because apparently being like an actual like gone to school chef is a pretty cutthroat industry from what I've heard. And so I would imagine that any sort of industry that is dominated by men will probably do its best to keep that standard. I mean, I guess that really applies to anything. Like if something is centered around benefiting one group of people, then those people are going to do their best to maintain the status quo so it continues to benefit them.
So because being a chef is already a male-dominated industry, they want to keep it that way?
Yeah, I would probably say so. I would say that really applies to any sort of structure. Like, for example, every president so far has been a man, and so a lot of people wouldn't want that to change. So they would do whatever they could to prevent a woman from being president, just because it would be different. It would break the status quo. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of industries probably do their best, whether blatantly or not, to sort of maintain that level of just normality.
Interesting take.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's not an uncommon take, right? Like the group on top wants to stay on top.
So having women be professional chefs is like threatening.
Yeah, I bet it's threatening. I bet it's threatening to some of, not all of, but some of like the male chefs in the industry that are maybe a little more competitive, or maybe some chefs that are, I guess, particularly misogynistic.
Mm.
Like if they think that, if they think that more and more and more women coming into the industry might, in their minds jeopardize some sort of job security or break this, like for example, a lot of guys, like, like the whole concept of like locker room talk, which is just, a code phrase for
Misogyny.
sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah, misogyny. Like a lot of guys might feel like a woman coming into their workspace, like, oh, like she wouldn't fit in. Like, you know how boys are. We do locker room talk at the water cooler, and a woman, like that's not a place for a woman to like be around that kind of conversation. You know what I mean?
Maybe even simpler than that.
How do you mean?
It may relate to our previous point where women are not supposed to be assertive and dominant. And if you were going to be a head chef,
you would have to be.
Yeah.
I've seen The Bear.
Right. I mean, you associate women's a lot if you're following the traditional gender roles with they're got to be in the kitchen and they're doing all the cooking and they're great at cooking and they cook at home. Why are they not going into the industry? Because they're not supposed to be assertive and they're not supposed to be the breadwinners and get out there and make money. And once it becomes a job, that's a big no-no, apparently.
Yeah. Like once it's like occupational, it's like that's where we draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
All right, next up. Although both men and women may be intimate with the same number of people, men are often congratulated while women are degraded for doing the same act.
I don't feel like this one has changed much.
No?
No, I just from what I've seen, like especially on social media and the way people react on social media, people definitely like are like they like slut shame women, but like you said, like for a guy, it's like,
it's a bragging right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, these are like his conquests or
you know
some
why
shit,
that is?
right?
I'll tell you why that is.
Please enlighten me.
The idea is that a man is supposed to be like Genghis Khan, fucking everything, spreading his seed, perpetuating his name. And so, yeah, that is his conquest. If he fucks a lot of people, then, good. Congratulations, buddy. But a woman, that doesn't really hold true. Apparently, if a woman likes sex, which is very, very naughty for a woman to enjoy sex, let's not have any of that.
Yeah, women don't like sex.
Right. They tolerate sex.
Women don't go to the bathroom and they only tolerate sex.
Then they can be shamed for that, because it's like, what business do they have having so many sexual partners?
Yeah. Well, I hate using this phrase because it makes me feel kind of gross. But like they'll view like a man is like, like you said, like he's conquering, he's spreading his seed, fucking whatever. But a woman's like used up.
Yeah, she's had too much sex and now she's just all sexed out.
Yeah, because that's how it works. No, I don't think we've really progressed much in this. I think that a lot of guys are really turned off by the idea of being with a woman with a sexual history.
Right.
I think it makes like guys like I've seen a lot of guys get like really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
If they encounter a woman and they're like, oh, like she was. I mean, I've seen guys be like, oh, she was nice, she was pretty, but she's
her body
slept
count.
with all. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of silly, right? That's not how that works. I think that just tells me you don't know how that works.
Yeah, this is a horrible double standard. Don't you want your women to be well experienced?
No, that's the thing. They don't. They don't want it.
Every man wants, their perfect woman to be a 10 out of 10 in the bedroom and also be a virgin.
Yes,
that's the double standard here.
And that's the thing is like this one I feel like I feel like this one is gonna be really hard to break, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I don't see this one changing in the near future, at least. And that might sound cynical, but I just don't.
Let's all stop pretending that we all don't love sex and that it's great for everyone to enjoy sex, and great, let's be sex positive out here.
Hey, dude,
no more
some of those people are sex negative.
Yeah, if you can have a lot of sex and enjoy yourself and be responsible, go for it. All right, if that's your thing.
honestly, if you want, if you want to kind of like sort of dip our toes into that territory, I think that a lot of like the country is actually kind of very averse to the discussion of sex as like almost like scared to acknowledge that it's fun.
Oh yeah, we're way too prudish about that shit.
I think that, and honestly, like, and, socially, I do think that, there's a time and a place to have certain conversations that could be considered more crude than others. But you're right. I do think we kind of tend to lean up a little bit prudish when it comes to conversations about sex. Like the whole big wave is like people getting upset at sex scenes in movies. They were like, oh, that sex scene in Oppenheimer was so unnecessary. I watched Oppenheimer. There was not a single unnecessary scene in that entire movie.
We all know that he never had sex in his life.
Dude, the scene where, like Emily Blunt, I don't remember her name, but there was the scene where Emily Blunt is watching Florence Pugh's character, like, have sex with Oppenheimer in the interrogation room. People were like, oh, what the fuck? That's so... What do you mean unnecessary? That's like a perfect representation. She's defending a man... She's defending her husband against the United States government. She's defending a man that she knows was unfaithful to her. So in her defense of him, while she's defending him, it makes sense that she would be seeing him violating her trust while she's... Like, it makes sense. And people are like, this sex scene was unnecessary. Sometimes they are. Yeah, sure.
It can be, yeah.
But, like, are you scared of sex or something?
I'm not squirming in my seat if I see a sex scene in a movie.
I will say, have you seen The Room? Dude, there's a sex scene in The Room. Oh my god.
That's a particularly bad example, though.
It's Carl, dude, it's like 8 minutes long.
Yeah. Not to get off track here, but that was all just like a fantasy fulfillment for Tommy there.
Bro, there was 2 sex scenes in the movie, and the second one is just recut footage from the first one because she just couldn't do it again.
Right. Also, I'm going to mark off my long couch bingo card that you mentioned Oppenheimer in this episode.
God fucking damn it. Did you fucking... Were you just waiting for me to bring up Oppenheimer?
It's on my bingo card.
It was a good movie.
Okay. Let's get into this. Oh, this is a tough one. This is the toilet seat debate. I don't even have to explain this one because...
What the fuck is this?
Wait, you don't know what this is? This is, should men put down the toilet seat? Or what's the operation here for men and women using the toilet?
If a man is pissing and standing up, lift up the seat cover and the actual seat. Piss particles get everywhere. Sure, you can wipe it off, but that's a whole extra step that could be avoided if you just lifted it up.
Well, right. We all agree we should do that, but should we put it back down, or is that the woman's job?
What the fuck kind of question? What the fuck?
This is the debate here. You've never heard this argument before?
I have heard the standard that men are more likely to leave it up, but like never in my mind. I've never heard like, oh, I shouldn't even have to. Because the woman will and should. I've never heard that.
See, the argument is, as a man, and I want to stand at my toilet, I approach the toilet, I put the lid up, I urinate, I leave the lid. Then a woman approaches the toilet, and they lower it before they use it. Therefore, equality. We're all taking one action.
No fucking way. I've never heard that fucking argument.
Really? That's surprising. Okay.
It's not that I don't believe you. I fully believe that. But I've never heard the argument, like I have heard that men are more likely to leave it up, but I've never heard the argument that a man shouldn't have to.
Or maybe a woman sits and urinates and then she gets up and she lifts it for the next person.
Dude, I feel fucking crazy. I'm about to go ask Kinsey if she's ever heard of this. Oh my, no, I've never once heard that like a man should leave it up because a woman's gonna put it down anyways. That is insane.
Okay, so let me get scientific here, okay?
That's really funny.
Let me get scientific. I have the answer for this one.
Wow, I'm glad you solved this one.
The definitive answer with math behind it and everything.
Oh my god, empirical evidence for the toilet seat debate?
There will be no more arguing after this.
I'm ready, hit me with it.
You got a traditional, regular-ass, run-of-the-mill toilet at home. It's not a urinal, okay?
Right, it's got a urinal, okay.
That solves a lot of problems. Anyway. 25%.
Urinals are fucking gross, man.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a urinal at your house?
No, urinals are fucking disgusting. That's a whole other conversation, though.
Okay. But
that shit splashes back at you.
25% of, I don't know, bathroom relief is done standing up. In a man-woman household, if it's a husband and wife sharing a toilet, okay, woman's
Right.
got to sit down all the time. There's no option for her to stand and lift the lid.
And
Okay, and a
sits
man,
down half
if you
the
got to
time.
shit, you're sitting down. You're not going to stand up to shit and lift the lid. Or you're not going to,
you don't-
stand up
you
and
don't
pee
stand
and
up
then
while
you
you
sit
shit?
down and you shit. Maybe
You don't
Mel
stand
does.
up-
I don't know. I can't speak for him.
I actually stand on the water tank and
Right.
turn backwards.
I ride it reverse cowgirl like I'm riding a horse.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. Because then you can have a little table
Yeah.
in front of you on the water tank. You can set up lunch and stuff.
But anyway, only 25% of those
Right.
bathroom activities involve lifting or lowering the seat. Therefore, the default position of the toilet seat should be down.
I mean, yeah, statistically. Well, here's the thing. Okay,
You're about to disagree with me?
I'm not going to disagree with you. It should be down. But here's the thing. There are 2 steps. Whether putting down or... So you lift up the toilet seat cover, right? And then if you're going to pee and you're standing up, you're going to also lift up the seat that you sit down on.
Well, for the sake of argument, let's just pretend there is no lid. There's only a seat.
That's not how it goes, though.
I've had toilets like that in the past.
You've had toilets with no cover. Just. Oh, I don't have a cover either. Okay, hold on. I confused myself. You're so right because I don't have a cover. My point is that I don't get it. I think that's just it's just there's no social dynamic here. I think people are trying to create a social dynamic when there's not one. You just put it down when you're done, and that's it.
Yeah? Because you're in the minority of toilet usage, I think. That's just it.
Okay, hold on. I confused the fuck out of myself, bro.
Uh-huh.
I got so overwhelmed and excitable.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a seat and then a lid,
Right.
right? You are saying we're ignoring the lid.
Yes.
This changes a lot. It doesn't change a lot for me, but it changes my entire argument. I still think that you should put it back down, but I was coming from the perspective of you should put it back down because the lid covers the toilet.
Mm-hmm. That too.
But getting rid of the lid, I do still believe that there's no social aspect to it. You shouldn't leave it up because it's the woman's job to put it down. You should just put it back down.
Everyone should just have a lid, and everyone should just be used to closing the lid every time. Then everybody does the same amount of effort, basically, right? You got to do the toilet, lift up the lid, and or the seat. There you go. You put it back down when you're done. Easy. Equality. Feminism. All right?
That's 100% right. And I just kind of I was hit by a truck by the fact that we were talking about toilets with no lid. Like we were talking about whether or not we're leaving this this seat part up or down.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally operating from the angle that men were just they should just leave the lid up because the woman it was her job to put it down.
Put the lid down.
Yeah, I have gravely misunderstood the context of this conversation. My opinion doesn't change.
Uh-huh. That the man should both lift and lower the seat.
I think whoever's using it should just lift and lower. I see now where I maybe got a little confused on what we were talking about.
We could probably do a whole episode about this, Mel. I don't blame you. Okay, but let's move on.
I would love to.
We're going to talk about free the nipple. Okay?
I'm cool. Right away, right off the bat, I'm so cool with free the nipple, but I don't think that it'll ever stick as a movement because people are always going to be weird about it.
It shouldn't have to be a movement. It should just be a widely accepted thing and everybody just get over it.
But I think people are always going to be weird about it because people sexualize breasts.
Either we have all nipples or we have no nipples, all right?
Yeah, for example, people will be like, "Oh, you can't breastfeed in public. That's obscene."
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's a mother feeding their child.
It's just another one of those things where people are so prudish about the most natural thing ever, like nudity. Like being naked and having a body is very wrong, apparently.
Well, people gawk at people who are breastfeeding, and the thing is that kind of falls in line with a free the nipple type thing. But like I said, people are just weird about it. I'm cool with the whole free the nipple thing. Like a nipple is a nipple, whatever. But I don't. I think that there's just a not small group of people that are always going to sort of prevent it from being broken as a social stigma because it's always going to be like a sexualized thing.
It will take some time.
For sure. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. But in the future, I can see that social stigma changing over time. I think a lot of people are gonna have to die for it to happen, though.
A lot of people are going to have to mature for it to happen.
That too. Maybe I phrased that wrong. I just think that, I can't imagine. Can you see a fucking the large demographic of boomers just being like, yeah, free the nipple?
I don't know. I don't know how the majority of people feel on this one.
I think a lot of people would argue that women should cover their nipples.
I imagine people might argue that everyone should cover their nipples.
Well, actually, yeah. Now that I think about it, when the fuck am I ever gonna be at the mall, see a guy shirtless, and be like, "Yeah, that's okay."
Yeah.
The only like context that men have their shirts off en masse is like a pool.
Yeah, if you're at the beach or at a swimming pool, everyone should be able to just take their shirt off. Okay. If you're at the gym and you're wearing loose-fitting clothing, and I can see your nipple, like props. Okay.
Yeah, now that I
Fine.
think about it, there's not really a lot of
But
context.
otherwise, keep your shirt on, unless it's
Yeah.
swelteringly hot out there.
Yeah, I'm not really thinking of a lot of contexts in which I'm taking my shirt off. I don't take my shirt off at the gym because you're not allowed to do that.
Uh-huh.
I take my shirt off at the pool, and I take my shirt off at the beach. And sometimes I'll like take my shirt off if
On
I'm
stage.
Like,
To show off your full body tattoos.
Yeah, my giant chest and back piece.
Yeah, I saw a video of you last week at a sold out concert, and you had your shirt off. You had six-pack abs and full body tattoos.
Yeah, sometimes
you were rocking out.
Sometimes in the heat of the moment, that's just how it gets, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what happened. I just
it gets hot up there.
My shirt was on. Yeah, 1 second my shirt was on. Next second it wasn't, and I was singing to a sold out arena.
Uh-huh.
Singing Orange Autumn Blues to a sold out arena, moshing in the pit.
So there's something about getting up on stage that makes people want to take their shirt off.
You know what? I will say this: I performed my first concert late last year, and like I mean, I was doing just like some like lo-fi hip hop, and like part of me was like, you could take your shirt off right now,
right?
Like,
there's some kind of urge that creeps up on you, right?
Dude, it is.
Yeah.
It kind of sneaks up on you, and you're kind of like, fuck, I kind of want to take my shirt off right now. Like, I could have done those lo-fi hip-hop songs shirtless.
I rest my case.
You know what? Next time I perform live, that's all I'm going to think about. It's going to be like a nagging, intrusive thought, and I'm going to end up doing it because we have this conversation now.
You should put black tape on your nipples.
Like black X's?
Yeah, like in solidarity.
That's kind of hot, though, right? It's like, oh, this is what you can't have? They're X'd out. You'd pay to see me perform shirtless with blacked out nipples, like crossed out nipples?
I'm sure I'm not the only one.
There's a whole subset of people who are like, I need that.
Okay, well, let's move on to some other double standards that are not related to gender. Okay, let's have a little more fun here.
Yeah, let's stop talking about that gross old gender shit.
I'm sick of talking about stupid, old, boring, nasty gender. Nobody wants that shit. I'm so tired of it.
Nobody wants that shit. Move on.
All right. If a person is attractive, their approach may be regarded as flirty and romantic. If they are unattractive, it may be regarded as creepy. Now, we've all seen that looking good, Susan meme.
Hello, HR. This will, unfortunately, to some extent, always be the case. And also, like, it just depends on what that person perceives to be attractive, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, people are more likely to be okay with mild harassment if they believe that person to be conventionally attractive. That's it.
Yeah, if you look like Ryan Reynolds, you can get away with a lot of stuff.
Is that your standard of male beauty, is Ryan Reynolds?
I don't know. He's just an attractive man that came to my mind.
That's interesting. That's what came to your mind first.
Just one of many.
But yeah, I know. It's just that's what came out of your mouth. So obviously,
I'd let Ryan Reynolds flirt with me. Okay, I wouldn't be offended.
Bro, that was a crazy stutter. I didn't think you said flirt. I heard a different word, but
I thought a different word.
It would have been okay if it was a different word that I thought it was.
Listen, I can't flirt with people. I can't just go around willy-nilly
I'm
flirting with people because I'm ugly. Unfortunately, you know, I was born that way.
you're not just catcalling people in the street every
No,
day.
I can't get away with it. You know, unfortunately.
You're not saying woo mama,
Oh, and they're like, "Oh, you're so sweet."
humana,
They're calling
and
HR immediately, even though we don't work
Yeah.
together.
your jaw hits the floor and your tongue rolls out and your eyes pop out of your head and smoke starts blowing out of your ears as you smack yourself on the head with a large mallet. Because that's what I do.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
I say a wooga. What were we talking about? Yeah, I think this is true.
There are some people, though, it doesn't matter how attractive you are, they're not going to take too kindly to your flirting. So,
And
This
that's the
isn't-
thing is like I said, it comes down to what you're okay with. Because you can be attractive as fuck, and if you catcall me, I'm gonna be like, "Go fuck yourself."
well, not all flirting is catcalling, Mel.
I'm just saying. If somebody's kind
Somebody
of
might
like,
just say something a little riskier. You know, maybe they,
yeah.
you know, touch your wrist or something. That's very
Yeah.
sexy.
To be fair, I am taken. So any sort of flirting, I will just politely reject.
But how politely are you going to reject it? If they're ugly, are you going to be like, "Get away from me, you vile creature"? But if they're hot, you're going to be like, "Oh, no, thank you. I'm flattered, but no."
That's what I say out loud to people in public. I say, "Get away from me, you vile creature." No, if somebody flirts with me, I'm very politely dismissive of it. Someone did give me a free coffee the other day because I think they were flirting with me.
Maybe they're just paying it forward.
I immediately, it was the cashier.
Hmm.
And they like flirted with me and gave me my coffee for free. And I immediately got in the car, looked at my girlfriend and was like, "Look what I got for free," because the person was flirting with me.
Well, listen, Mel, you have that power because you're incredibly attractive.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot coming from you.
And surely you must know this, and you must take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it. Hold on. That's a whole other conversation. That's crazy. No, I do not take advantage of whatever attractiveness I may or may not have.
Well,
Listen, I saw that. You cannot pretend like. Listen, I saw that video of you on stage.
what about it?
There was just a good-looking guy up there.
Okay. Next up, smokers should be ashamed of their unhealthy choices, but overweight people should embrace body positivity.
I feel like these aren't even things that are correlated.
They are correlated because they're both like conscious unhealthy choices.
I would actually, if I may, make the argument that obesity isn't always like a decision. Like some people are just heavier than others. Like genetically, they're just predisposed to be heavier, and they can still be very healthy people. They're just bigger. But smoking is that is just like 100% a choice.
Right.
I also inversely do not think smokers should be ashamed for smoking.
Maybe you don't agree, but this is a bit of a double standard. Everybody says, no, you shouldn't be smoking. Don't you know how bad that is for you? You're killing yourself slowly. But then you see some overweight person eating a Big Mac, and you're just like, you go, girl.
I think these are only tangentially related.
Maybe so.
Like, I think that you can maybe draw comparisons, but I don't, in my mind, I just don't feel like these are the same at all. Like, first of all, shouldn't be ashamed for smoking at all. It's an addiction. I was addicted to nicotine for 7 years before I quit. Like, it's nothing to be ashamed of. And also, if you're like, I don't want to quit, like, also, like, whatever, that's fine. That's your choice, your body. I also do believe that, like I said, like, being, overweight or being heavier set, like, isn't always, like, a super conscious choice. And even people that are, like, and even people that maybe do, like, have rapid or unnatural weight gain, maybe due to, like, poor eating habits or, anything like that. Like, I also don't think that they should be ashamed at all either. Because, like, that's you. Your body is you. That's the sort of like little vessel, little meat suit that you're walking around in. I think that you should always love it, like love yourself, even if
Think
you
of it
notice
like
things
this, Mel.
that you.
Consider
Okay.
this. Is there any kind of pro-smoker movement that says you should be
Well, no.
celebrated for smoking?
But that's just like a drug that you can choose to consume. I don't know. I get what you're saying, and I don't necessarily like disagree with the point you're making. I feel like these two things are too different to make a direct comparison of. In terms of like maybe poor eating habits, then maybe like they would be a little bit more related because those are both conscious choices to consume things that are bad for you.
Right.
But I think that the umbrella term of just being overweight, like it just there's too many, I would say too many causes and effects and sort of situations for me to compare it directly to just smoking.
Listen, I'm a fat guy, and I'm not fat on accident, okay?
You're fat on purpose. It was a conscious choice.
I'm fat because I eat too much and I don't exercise enough. All right, and I know that. And I should not be celebrated, and I should not get into the mindset that this is okay. I should just love my body. Like, it's one thing to be like, I'm okay with the way I look, and I think sometimes I look good. Fine, but I should not be happy or complacent that I am overweight and unhealthy at the same time.
But honestly, in that situation where it's like a personal growth thing for you, I could say the same thing about myself. I mean, for the past like couple years, I've been like, I have fluctuated between 120 and 135 pounds, right? So I'm 6'2". I'm 6'2", and 130 pounds. You could make an argument that is underweight, and I'm out of shape. I don't go to the gym. I'm